All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Magistrate Jacob Edson. I am a District Court Magistrate here in the 18th Judicial District, and that includes our wonderful Arapahoe County. And I welcome everybody here for mock trial today. So first question, can everyone hear me? If so, just kind of nod up and down. Great. What I want to say is as we're doing, I recognize this is likely the first round for everyone. So as we're moving forward, if for some reason you cannot hear the court or you cannot hear the witnesses or you cannot hear the attorneys, please put something in the chat and we'll see what we can do about that. Is that understood for everybody? All right, thank you very much. So let me go through a few things here. First of all, my understanding, if I heard correctly, is that Team H is the plaintiffs. Is that correct? All right.
That is correct.
Thank you. And Team Q is the defense. Is that correct? All right. Thank you very much. So let me ask, before we get started down any further, let me just have one attorney from each side answer this question for me. So for the plaintiffs, Team H, one attorney, are you and your team prepared for trial?
We are, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Let me ask the defense, same question. Team Q, are you prepared for trial as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. We have went through some of the introductory remarks as far as any conflicts. I do not believe that we have any conflicts. The scoring panelists indicated that they did not have any conflicts. And so I remind each and every attorney and witness to, again, speak up. And if there are any audio or video issues, please let us know and we will see what we can do to remedy that.
I
Or
have
just once.
one quick thing. Sorry, Your Honor.
Yeah.
We are all sharing a computer, so it might take us a second to change our names in between directs and crosses and that sort of thing.
That's fine. Is it a laptop computer? Are you going to be moving it around?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. The court will allow that. Thank you very much for letting us know that. All right, so as we move forward, I do want to make a couple introductory remarks. Just as a reminder, we're not going to be in any sort of recess. This court will be running this as if I run my courts every single day. I'm going to be having you all introduce yourself here in a moment. We'll be giving an oath to the attorneys and the witnesses and the scoring panelists. Then we will be moving forward with opening statements. If either side wishes to have an opening statements, we'll be hearing the case in chief from each side, and then we will be closing with a close as well if and when either side wants to do that. So that's kind of the general lay of the land here for mock trial purposes. All right, team members. Understanding that Team H has one computer that you all are sharing, I'm going to swear each of the team members in as best I can. We'll start with the attorneys first. Can I have the attorneys go on camera as best I can? Team H, if you need to, are you all in the same room? Yeah, if you all want to get together there, or at least a couple of you get together, perfect. So I have all three of the attorneys for Team H, and I believe that I see the three attorneys for Team Q. I have them right there. That's Mr. Zeppelin, Mr. Medved, and Mr. Jaireva, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, hopefully. All right, can I have the attorneys for Team H and Team Q? Please go ahead and raise your right hands for me, please. Attorney team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? If so, say I do.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have the witnesses please gather together as best we can? All right, Team H, and I see the three witnesses for Team Q as well. Can you go ahead and raise your right hands for me, please? Thank you very much. So all witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements and that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of mock trial and the mock trial competition? If so, say I do.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. Scoring panelists, just for a quick moment, if you can come back on the video screen, I want to give an oath to all of you as well. All right. All right, I have all of my scoring panelists here. Scoring panelists, would you mind please raising your right hands for me? Thank you very much. All scoring panelists, do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and as objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rule of the mock trial competition? If so, please say I do.
I do.
All right, thank you very much. All right, let me go through first for the plaintiff, team H. Would you all like to have someone and or each of you introduce yourselves for the scoring panels, please? Team H, we'll start with you as plaintiffs. Go ahead.
I'm Gavin Almoody. I'll be directing Dakota Weirs and cross-examining Skylar Weirs, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury. My name is Erica Danzer, and I will be giving an opening statement as well as directing Carson Durst and crossing Blake Doncourt.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Jason Lee, and I'll be directing Dr. Casey Rogers and cross-examining Dr. Devin Williams, and I will also be giving the closing argument.
Thank you very much. Plaintiffs, would you like to introduce your witnesses to the scoring panelists?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is John Dieter, and today I am Dakota Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Lily Gregory, and today I am Carson Durst.
Wow.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Mia Garcia, and today I am Dr. Casey Rogers.
Thank you all very much. For the defense, would the defense attorneys like to please introduce themselves?
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Tanish, and today I'll be directing Dr. Devin Williams, crossing Dr. Casey Rogers, as well as providing the opening statement and the closing argument. At this time, my co-counsel will introduce themselves.
Good evening, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Alan, and I'll be directing Skylar Weirs and crossing Dakota Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sam Zeppelin. I'll be directing Blake Doncourt and crossing Carson Durst.
Very much. Defense, or would you like to introduce your witnesses, please?
Good evening. My name is Milan, and I am Blake Doncourt.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel.
Hold on, everybody. So for defense, you want to make sure that everybody else is muted. We're not getting feedback. There you go. Go ahead, try that again.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel, and I'm Skylar Weirs.
Good afternoon. My name is Faith, and I am Dr. Devin Williams.
All right, thank you all very much. Counsel for the plaintiffs, are there any preliminary matters that the court needs to take up? All right.
Yes, Your Honor, sorry, we're having a bit of a technical difficulty with getting our timers in. But for our preliminary matters, first, we request that the stipulated facts be admitted into evidence. We ask that witnesses be considered constructively sequestered. We ask that admitted exhibits remain on the witness stand or for ease of reference. And finally, since we are at school, there may be school announcements in the middle of the trial. If that happens, we ask that our team be allowed to pause the time and mute ourselves because we don't want to risk revealing our school identity.
Understood. Can I have a representative from the defense? Are there any preliminary matters, and do you have any objections to the introductory requests from the plaintiffs?
We have two preliminary matters, Your Honor. Just to confirm that once the exhibits are shared on the screen, they're hidden from the jury until Your Honor has published them into evidence. And if the situation arises, the defense would like to request the ability to confer with co-counsel via Zoom chat. And similar to the plaintiff, if there are any school announcements, we request to pause our time and mute ourselves so as not to reveal our school's identity.
All right, so the court will grant both the joint request from both parties as far as the school announcements goes. Obviously, just let the court know about that, but otherwise you can go ahead and mute yourselves and do whatever you need to do that. The court understands the reason behind that. The court understands and will grant the request of the defense as far as publication. Just as the rules of evidence indicates that the court will not allow publication until it is granted by the court. All the initial preliminary matters by both the remaining preliminary matters from both the plaintiffs and the defense will be respectfully granted. Let me ask this, attorneys for the plaintiffs, are your timers not allowed, or are they not into the meeting right now in the Zoom?
No, they are currently not in the meeting, Your Honor.
Okay. For the defense, are your timers here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm not entirely sure how, because I'm not running this, but I will do what I can to try and. Are your timers with you, attorneys for the plaintiff? Are they with you physically at school there?
They are at school with us, but they're not in the same room as us.
Okay. And they cannot get into they cannot access the courtroom right now?
No.
They're using a different computer.
Okay. All right, let me see what I can do. Hold on, everybody. So let me ask this for attorneys for the plaintiffs. Have they tried to log in just like you guys did and and the computer's not allowing that? Is that what's going on?
I believe that's the case, yes. Oh, they are going to come into this room. Give us a moment.
Okay. Counsel for the defense, any objection to allowing the timekeepers for the plaintiffs to be in the same room with them? I think it makes sense for the ease of competition. Is there any objection to that, counsel?
Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. The court will allow that. Counsel for the plaintiff, let me know when you're ready to go.
Sorry, give us a moment. It's taking a second. We to be let into the meeting if that's possible.
Say that one more time. So counsel for the plaintiff, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Your internet's cutting out.
Oh, our timers were just able to get into the meeting.
All right, so I've got two different timekeepers that I see at the bottom. I think we're prepared to proceed. All right, attorneys for the plaintiffs, are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, counsel for the defense, are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and get started. At this time, the court will ask counsel for the plaintiff, is there an opening statement that you wish to provide?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed. Go ahead.
I could have a second to change my name.
That's fine.
We are all in such a hurry these days. You could be in a rush to the grocery store and you've forgotten your wallet. You could be rushing the school assignment and you might miss part of the project. You could just be in a rush because you're late. All of these things you could rush, but you cannot rush poison to the market because lives hang in the balance. Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury, Lush was rushed. My name is Erica Danzer, and along with my co-counsel, Jason Lee and Gavin Moody, we represent Dakota Weirs. We have the burden in today's case to prove by a preponderance of evidence, or more likely than not, that the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, 1, used Drufo in their fertilizer, 2, didn't exercise adequate care in reducing harm in their product, 3, that Dakota Weirs was a person reasonably expected to use Lush's product, and 4, Mr. Weirs' cancer was caused by Lush's negligence while Mr. Weirs was reasonably using the product. And by the end of today's case, we will meet this burden. How will we meet this burden? First, we will hear from Dakota Weirs. Dakota was a young man whose life was devastated after he contracted cancer from his use of Lush fertilizer. No longer can he help at his local homeless shelter. No longer can he participate in National Honor Society, or serve as president on his student government. And no longer can he play piano, his greatest gift of all. See, ever since Dakota was a young boy, he would walk over and press on the pedals of his grandfather's piano. Once Dakota was tall enough, he would start mashing the keys and making melodies with the help of his grandfather. Unfortunately, his grandpa passed away, but Dakota continued to play piano to honor his grandfather. Dakota kept playing, and eventually his skills got him a full ride scholarship to Juilliard. Now, he can't even play the shortest piece. All these have been lost from using Drufo. Next, Carson Durst, a former researcher and employee at Lush Fertilizer, will tell you how Lush tested Drufo, finding potential carcinogenic qualities, and that these qualities, found over 2 decades ago, were ordered to be kept in the walls until we figure out what we're doing. Lush scientists even recommended baking Drufo to eliminate any risk of carcinogenicity, but Lush ignored its own science and still rushed Drufo to the market. Finally, Dr. Casey Rogers will tell you about his study on Drufo, which found that people who were regularly exposed to Drufo were 10 times more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than those who were never exposed. Lush Fertilizer will then call 3 witnesses. You will hear from Blake Doncourt, who will tell you that there was some risk, even a little, to using Drufo. A risk that could have been eliminated had Lush baked their Drufo. Instead, Lush rushed their product to market without baking it. Skylar Weirs, a self-proclaimed expert, will claim to know more than anyone, almost anyone, about modern agritech, despite only doing a year of research of science work performed by people who he cannot even bring to the stand. Weirs will tell you that Drufo does not cause cancer, despite having no college degree. Finally, you will hear from Dr. Devin Williams, who claims Drufo is safe and science data claiming otherwise is wrong. Dr. Williams will also tell you that they have never authored any publications regarding the carcinogenicity of Drufo. And Dr. Williams will also tell you that when he started at Lush, he had to fill in a role because turnover was beginning to impact testing timeliness. Lush was rushed. We are confident that after hearing our case, you will return a verdict in favor of Dakota Weirs. We will ask you to compensate Dakota for his loss of enjoyment of life, for his past, current, and future pain and suffering, and for the diminished lifetime that he will experience. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Counsel for the defense, would you like to do you wish to prepare an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Once the timekeepers are set, please let us know, and you may begin.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. My name is Tanish Javeria, and I am representing the defense in this case along with my co-counsel. Lush Fertilizers has been falsely accused of practicing negligence in the development and distribution of their acclaimed and revolutionary fertilizers containing Drufo. Drufo is a chemical which has been developed by Lush Fertilizers as the solution towards creating more environmentally friendly fertilizers. Accusations don't equal truth. Don't reward misinformation. The facts of this case are straightforward. The evidence will go to show that Lush Fertilizers nor any purported negligence by them are the cause for Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and that their product, Drufo, has benefits that outweigh any plausible drawbacks. First, the plaintiff will call 3 witnesses: the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, who failed to follow safety precautions written on every product distributed by Lush Fertilizers. Then they will call upon Carson Durst, who themselves violated multiple non-compete agreements. Finally, they will call upon Dr. Casey Rogers, whose own study compares apples to oranges to bananas and calls it a reliable study. After that, the defense will call on 3 witnesses: Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer since 2000, Skylar Weirs, the very own twin of the plaintiff, an avid investigative journalist who has written numerous pieces regarding the conflict between individual health and corporate policy, as well as Drufo, and Dr. Devin Williams, the head of the Toxicology Research and Development Labs and the outgoing chair of the company's ethics committee. First, Blake Doncourt will tell us about Lush Fertilizer's choices and explain the data behind those choices. Then, Skylar Weirs will discuss the research she has seen regarding Drufo and the lack of a correlation between exposure to Drufo and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Finally, Dr. Devin Williams will talk about the effects of Drufo in the studies conducted regarding correlation between exposure to Drufo and non-Hodgkin lymphoma. This is a civil case, and the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, must prove her case by preponderance of the evidence. This means that the burden of the evidence is on the plaintiff and that they must prove to you, the jury, that there is more than a 50% chance that Drufo caused Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Though it is a horrible tragedy, the plaintiff's sickness is unrelated to Drufo. Rather than Drufo, Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by other circumstances, and because of these unfortunate circumstances and poor research by certain bad actors, Lush Fertilizer is being falsely accused. For these reasons, after you have heard all of the testimonies and seen all of the evidence, at the end of this trial, we will ask you to return a verdict in favor of Lush Fertilizers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, counsel. Attorneys for the plaintiff, case in chief, do you have your first witness that you wish to call?
Yes, we wish to call Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Right. Mr. Weirs, can you hear the court okay?
Yes, I can.
All right. Can you go ahead and raise your right hand for me? I'm going to swear you in. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you very much. Counsel for the plaintiff, you may inquire.
Give us a second, Your Honor, to Good evening, Mr. Weirs. I'm Gavin Moody. I'll be direct examining you this afternoon. Can you please state your full name and spell your last?
I'm Dakota Weirs, Weirs.
Mr. Weirs, did you go to high school?
Yes, I did.
And did you have a job in high school?
Yes, I worked for Haven Landscaping.
And what did you do for Haven?
I was a lawn care technician.
And what were your duties as a lawn care technician?
I was primarily responsible for spreading out the fertilizer for our clients.
Mr. Weirs, do you recall what fertilizer was used at Haven?
We did use multiple fertilizers, but I do remember that we used Lush Fertilizer.
And do you know what form of fertilizer lush comes in?
It came in both, I believe, an aerosol and a granular form.
When using fertilizer, did Haven require you to wear any safety gear?
They recommended it, but no one did, and they never enforced their own rule.
What was the safety gear you were supposed to wear?
I believe it was long sleeves, gloves, pants, and an N95 mask.
Did you wear any of the safety gear?
No, I didn't. If I could do it over again, I would, but no, I did not.
Mr. Weirs, do you still work for Haven?
No, I do not.
And why did you leave?
My condition got to the point where I could hardly get around the house, let alone do manual labor for my
Mr. Weirs,
job.
Mr. Weirs, can you please explain the symptoms of your condition?
Well, I'm nauseous majority of the time. I have shortness of breath. I bruise very easily, which has affected my piano career. And I have swollen lymph nodes all over my body and fatigued.
Mr. Weirs, did you ever go see a doctor? Mr. Weirs, did you ever go see a doctor about this condition?
Yes, I did.
And what was the outcome of these visits?
After about a year of them not being able to figure out what's wrong with me, I was finally diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And what is your understanding of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I understand it is a form of cancer.
And where do you believe you got it from?
I believe I got it from Lush fertilizer.
Why do you believe it was caused by Lush?
Well, I saw an ad that highlighted the risk of cancer that came with Lush. So that sparked me to do my own research, and I have concluded that Lush most likely caused my non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Before you got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, what activities were you involved in?
Academically, I was part of National Honor Society and president of my student body government. But outside of school, obviously I had my job at Havens, but I also volunteered down at my local homeless shelter, just trying to give back.
Did you make any plans for college?
Well, I was offered a full ride scholarship to my dream school, Juilliard, for my piano playing, but I had to rescind that scholarship because of my condition.
And what is your just overall status now with activities?
Sorry, repeat the question.
What is your overall status now with these activities?
Well, I'm unemployed. I can't go to my dream school, and I've had to give up my passion of playing piano.
At some point, Mr. Weirs, did you find a connection between Lush and your condition?
Yes, I did, after all of my research into the subject.
And what did you do after you found this connection?
I immediately went to my old boss at Haven and told him the risk of Lush fertilizer.
And he did. And did you take any other actions to find out about Lush fertilizer?
Well, I did look at the European Union version of Lush as opposed to the United States version of Lush and compared their ingredients.
And what was the difference?
Well, in the European Union, they did not include the ingredient of Drufo, while in the US, they had it.
Did anything else lead you to the conclusion about your condition being linked to Lush?
Well, considering the fact that my brother Skylar, who is my twin, has been essentially sharing every environment since the day we were born, aside from Havens, due to his allergy to grass. He hasn't gotten it, so I believe that eliminates the risk of it being a genetic disease.
Do you, Mr. Weirs, believe that you got non-Hodgkin's and lost everything because of Lush fertilizer?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Weirs. That's all I have.
Thank you, counsel. I'll let the timekeepers reset. Mr. Medved, are you counsel for the defense doing cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Timekeepers, are you set? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up in the chat, or otherwise let me know. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Mr. Medved, cross-examination, go ahead.
Good evening, Dakota.
Good evening. Sorry, good afternoon.
You have worked as a landscape technician since 14,
That's correct.
or Haven Landscaping,
Yes,
and you worked outside and inside.
yes, we did.
Some of those places were hot,
Well, it was a summer job, so yeah.
and your boss told you not to wear short sleeves.
He didn't tell us to not wear short sleeves. He recommended to wear the protective clothing such as long sleeves and pants.
But you still did, despite what your boss told you.
Yeah, none of us actually wore those, and Havens did nothing to enforce the rule. So I just followed the status quo.
And you didn't wear any sort of protection either.
No, as I previously stated, I did not.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that the opposing counsel has a copy of Exhibit 1. Your Honor, permission to share screen a copy of Exhibit 1.
First of all, what's, Mr. Al-Moody, what's your position on Exhibit 1?
Exhibit 1
Hold on, counsel, hold on. Counsel for the plaintiff, what's your position on Exhibit 1?
No objections?
Okay, Mr. Medved, are you asking to admit Exhibit 1? Is that what you're doing to do?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so without objection, Exhibit 1 will be admitted and you may publish it. Go ahead.
So you mentioned that there wasn't a warning label in your statement,
There was no warning label, no.
but it says right here on the warning label in Exhibit 1 to wear protection.
Yes, it says to wear the PPE for at the risk of eye irritation. I was not concerned about eye irritation, so I chose to not wear it. If it had said there is risk of cancer, then I would have definitely worn the PPE.
So you were informed that you should be doing these things, though,
Yes,
and you chose not to do them.
yes, I was following the status quo of the company.
And you are suing Lush for a negligence claim.
Yes, I believe they should have warned the users of this product of the cancer risk that comes along with it.
But you seem to be the negligent one.
Is that a question?
Yes.
Oh, yes, then.
During this time, you worked in a variety of different locations,
Yes,
inside and outside,
yes,
and with a variety of different fertilizers,
yes,
not just Lush.
yes, as I stated.
But you mentioned that some had warning labels not to be used indoors.
Yes,
You often use these products indoors.
the granulars, yes.
And these other fertilizers are dangerous if used without protection indoors.
That's correct.
And you said you started to feel sick after working there for several years.
Yes,
But Haven stopped using Lush after 3 or 4 years on the job.
that's correct. I worked there
And
for
yet-
5 years.
And yet you are still sick.
Yes,
And so you cannot be 100% certain that Lush specifically caused your illness.
I believe that Lush is the most likely option of all presented that they caused my cancer.
You believe.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Counsel for the plaintiff, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Weirs, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll let timekeepers get reset. Counsel for plaintiff, do you have a second witness that you wish to call?
Yes, we wish to call Carson Durst to the stand.
I'll let you do so. I'll let you go ahead and get set up and put all the names in there as you need to. Go ahead. Counsel for the defense, who's my defense attorney as cross-examination for Ms. Durst?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Zeppelin, go ahead and keep your camera on during the examination, just so I can see you, okay? All right, thank you. Counsel for the plaintiff, Ms. Danzer, are you prepared to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Durst, can you hear the court?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to swear you in at this time. Can you go ahead and raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear or affirm under the possible penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Danzer, you may inquire. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Durst. I'm Erica Danzer, and I will be asking you some questions. Could you please introduce yourself and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
Did you go to college, Miss Durst?
I did. I graduated from Arizona State University with a Bachelor's of Science.
Did you do anything else after college?
Yes, I was lucky enough to be hired by Lush right out of college.
What was your job when you first started at Lush?
I started as an intern, but was promoted to the job of product development engineer.
What did you get to do as a product development engineer?
I worked on the chemical of Drufo.
Could you explain what Drufo is?
Yes, Drufo is a patented chemical bonding agent used in Lush in its fertilizers to keep it preserved and intact.
And when you started with Lush, how did your colleagues treat you?
Very badly. They thought I only had my position because of my relationship with the CEO's son.
Did that change during your time with the company?
It only got worse from there, and I believe it was because of my findings.
Let's talk about those findings. Did you do any research on Drufo?
I did.
And what were your findings from the research?
I had found a study from England that proved the particular chemical compound used in Drufo was indeed carcinogenic in rats.
Did you bring this information to anyone?
I did, to my manager, Jerry Langley.
And what did she do with that information?
Well, Jerry compiles all the information from all the scientists that she receives information from, and she presents it to the higher ups. What happens beyond there is beyond my pay grade.
Did Lush conduct any studies on Drufo?
Yes, they did a few months later.
And were the results of this study communicated to you?
Yes, via an email sent by Jerry Langley.
Was it pretty common to get emails as a form of communication?
It was.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that I am showing opposing counsel and the witness what has previously been marked as Exhibit 4 for identification.
The witness will so reflect, or the record shall show reflect. Counsel, tell me what was that exhibit again?
Exhibit 4, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much.
One second. Oh, there we go. Exhibit 4. Thank you. Ms. Durst, are you included on this email?
I am.
And this is the same email that you received in your inbox?
It was, yes.
And it has not been altered in any way?
No, this is the email.
Your Honor, the plaintiffs move to enter what has previously been marked as Exhibit 4, its authenticity having been stipulated and accuracy having been shown.
All right, Mr. Zeppelin, any response or objection?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, the court will admit Exhibit 4. Go ahead, counsel, Ms. Danzer.
Ms. Durst, would you please read from the second sentence of the second paragraph?
Yes. Following our lab's June DRUFO study, concerns have arisen regarding generalized findings of potential carcinogenic qualities identified in samples produced during a period early in the year. So we are reinitiating the study in the coming weeks with fresh product samples.
Thank you, Ms. Durst. And after this email was sent out saying that DRUFO may be carcinogenic and that Lush needed to conduct more studies, were more studies conducted?
Yes, there were.
And what were the results of these further studies?
Well, all of our upper echelon managers called us in a room where one scientist shared their findings about DRUFO indeed being carcinogenic in humans, not only causing cancer, but causing non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
And did the higher ups who called the meeting have anything to say about that?
Yes, one of the managers, Alex Monroe, said we should keep it in the walls until we figure out what we're doing.
And did you receive any further information after this meeting?
Yes, about a month later, I received a report from Lush scientists themselves saying that if DRUFO were to be baked, it would eliminate any possibility at all of there being any carcinogenic qualities.
Did the company have a response?
Well, the company had framed it in such a way that made it seem like baking DRUFO would be going above and beyond to comport to safety standards, despite it being a suggestion from Lush scientists themselves.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Let the timers reset as needed. One of the timers, just go ahead and let me know in the chat when you're ready to proceed. All right, thank you very much. Cross-examination, Mr. Zeppelin, go ahead.
All right, good afternoon, Mrs. Durst.
Good afternoon.
So, Ms. Durst, you initially got hired to work at Lush Fertilizer in 2003.
I did.
And prior to you finding employment, you knew the Doncourt family very well.
I did. They were like family to me.
From a young age, you went on trips with them, had dinners with them, and even carpooled with the Doncourt family. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You were also very good friends with Charles Doncourt, their son.
Yes, I was.
And you were friends with Charles through your education at Arizona State University.
I was.
So it's pretty safe to say that on some level, you do have connections at Lush Fertilizer.
Yes, of course. The family is like the family I never had.
And when you graduated Arizona State University, you were looking for a job actively.
I was, but
And
who
you
isn't?
have some bad luck finding a job.
Yes, as is common.
And you told your very good friend Charles about your misfortunes trying to find a job. Is that correct?
I did. He's my best friend.
And he responded by saying that Blake, his father, would pull some strings for you.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Durst, after Charles had Blake pull some strings for you, you started off as a summer intern at Lush Fertilizer.
I did.
And 3 months later, you ended up getting a promotion.
Only because of my brilliant work ethic, I had proven myself at the company.
And that promotion ended you up at being a product development engineer. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And as you just said, you believe that your promotions were justified.
I do.
They were justified because you were performing at a, as you said in your statement, at a higher level than all of your other employees.
Yes.
But your coworkers believe that your promotion was solely due to your connections. Is that correct?
Yes, sadly they did.
Has any other employee gone through the ranks of Lush Fertilizer at that speed?
That I do not know.
Okay. Ms. Durst, let's talk about DRUFO. You say that DRUFO is a high value product for Lush Fertilizer. Is that correct?
Yes, it's one of their most successful items.
But you weren't a part of DRUFO's development team.
No.
But you were, however, a part of DRUFO's research and testing stages.
Yes, I was.
Your role was to look at DRUFO's compounds to ensure that Lush Fertilizer customers were not adversely impacted by DRUFO.
Yes.
You would have ensured that the study's viability and credibility. Is that true?
Yes, I would have. Safety is very important to me.
And throughout your time at Lush Fertilizer, you ensured the studies were scientifically accurate and thorough.
Yes, that's one of the reasons I ended up leaving. My concerns weren't noted, concerns over the safety of the fertilizer.
And during your research, you did in fact find one credible source, one credible scientifically conducted source. Is that correct?
Yes, the rat study from England.
And that test yielded results about some of Druffau's chemical compounds. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That one study stated that some of Druffau's chemical compounds may result in adverse effects on rats.
Yes,
And that was the only study that you found.
yes, it was.
Okay. So let's talk about how your employment at Lush Fertilizer came to an end. Ms. Durst, you are not currently working at Lush Fertilizer, is that correct?
No, I am not.
And were you aware that during your time at Lush Fertilizer, copious amounts of complaints regarding your work performance were filed during your time at Lush?
I was, and I believe they were made unjustly so.
And the complaint stated that you weren't pulling your weight and that you were just skating along. Is that correct?
I felt I was doing my very best in that company, and I helped.
Statements in the complaints say.
Yes.
After those complaints were filed, did you have a confrontation with the executive team?
No, I went to Blake directly.
Well, before you went to Blake, you actually had a confrontation with the executive team and they put you on a probationary status to ensure that your work performance would improve from that point on. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. Yes, that's correct.
And your work performance from that point on did not improve.
It did not, I suppose you could say.
Soon after that probationary status was put in effect, another poor performance review was submitted, and then you went and talked to Blake.
I did. I was confused.
And you asked Blake Doncourt to do something about your coworker or your manager, Jerry, who was one of the main people who was behind the complaints filed.
Yes, I should be able to go to my boss and ask for help if I'm being treated unfairly.
Right, but Mr. Doncourt refused to get himself involved in your feud. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, Mrs. Durst, after that conversation, is it true that you applied for a job at Terra Greenery, Lush's direct competitor?
I did. If Lush wasn't going to value me, why wouldn't I go to a place that did?
Were you aware at the time that Terra Greenery was Lush Fertilizer's direct competitor?
Yes, I was.
And were you aware that that was a direct violation of your non-compete agreement that you signed when you first got employed at Lush Fertilizer?
I did not remember signing it, and Lush did not do a good job reminding me that I did.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. However, we would like to publish Exhibit 4 to the jury.
Okay, well, before we do that, Ms. Danzer, do you have any objection to exhibit? Well, exhibit 4, that's the one that we've already admitted. Is that right, Ms. Danzer?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Zeppelin, it's already admitted. You can go ahead and publish as you like. Go ahead.
One second, Your Honor. There you go. Okay, that's all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Danzer, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Ms. Durst, thank you very much for your testimony. The court appreciates it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Timekeepers, go ahead and let me know when you're all reset. And let's go ahead and pull up to our screen the next set of attorneys for plaintiff and defense, if I could, please.
Your Honor, may I have a moment to change the name on the screen?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Alrighty.
Thank you. Mr. Javeria, are you my defense attorney on this, for this witness, Dr. Rogers?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you can put on your video if you can, please. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Lee, is there any additional witnesses that the prosecution, or the, I'm sorry, the plaintiff wishes to call?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, plaintiff wishes to call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
All right, Dr. Rogers, can you hear the court okay?
Yes, I can, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Can you go ahead and raise your right hand for me? You are being called as a witness in this case. Do you swear or affirm under the possible penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you very much. I'll just let both attorneys know, as well as the witness, if there happens to be any sort of objections, just make sure that you stop your testimony, Dr. Rogers. The court needs to take up any objections as they come forth, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rogers. Mr. Lee, you may inquire. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Lee, and I will be asking you a few questions today. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My name is Dr. Casey Rogers. That's Rogers.
Dr. Rogers, are you currently employed in any capacity?
Yes, I am. I am employed as a professor in horticulture and entomology at the University of California at Berkeley.
As a professor, would you have a CV or a list of published works?
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am showing to opposing counsel and the witness what has been previously marked as Exhibit 6 and Exhibit 7 for identification.
All right, just so we have a clean record, was that Exhibit 7, is that right?
Exhibit 6 and Exhibit 7.
Okay. Mr. Javeria, do you have Exhibit 6 and 7?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
Dr. Rogers, do you recognize the exhibits in front of you?
I do. This is a copy of my CV and my research publications.
And these documents were made by you?
Can you ask the question again?
You put together these documents yourself, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you kept these documents in the course of your regularly conducted business activities as a professor?
Yes, that is correct.
And you would regularly update these if there was any pertinent information that needed to be added?
That is correct.
And are these a fair and accurate copy of the documents?
Yes, they are.
Have they been modified in any way?
No, they have not.
Your Honor, at this time, plaintiff moves to admit Exhibit 6 and Exhibit 7 into evidence. Their authenticity has been stipulated and their accuracy has been shown.
Mr. Javeria, any objection to Exhibits 6 and 7?
No, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, Exhibit 6 as well as Exhibit 7 will be admitted, and both counsel can freely refer to that. Mr. Lee, go ahead.
Dr. Rogers, did you attend college?
I did. I attended college at Colorado State University and the University of California at Berkeley.
And could you please tell me your degrees and positions you may have held?
Well, I first obtained a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Chemistry at the University of Colorado State University. I also have a PhD in Agriculture and Entomology at the University of California at Berkeley. I was formerly a research analyst for a multi-international chemical company.
And are you currently employed now?
Yes, I am. I am currently employed as a professor of horticulture and entomology at UC Berkeley.
What is horticulture and entomology?
Well, horticulture is the study of plants, and specifically I look at how pesticides affect plants, and entomology is the study of insects, and so I also look at how pesticides affect insects.
And what is entomology? Do you have any published works?
I do. I have a list of research publications as well as a published study that I conducted.
Do you know what DRUFO is?
I do. DRUFO is a bonding agent found in all of Lush Fertilizer's products. It is primarily used as to preserve fertilizer.
Do you have any previous experience with DRUFO?
Yes, I do. As I stated, I have several research publications and a published study on how Drufo affects plants.
Your Honor, at this time, plaintiff moves to admit Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in the fields of agriculture, chemistry, and Drufo research.
And I presume you're doing so pursuant to the Colorado Rules of Evidence 702, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Dr. Javaria, Mr. Javaria, any objection and or voir dire of the witness?
Your Honor, the defense would like to request a voir dire of the witness.
You may do so. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Casey Rogers. So first of all, you were employed at a multinational research company where you synthesized data and compiled it.
That is correct.
And you also have a PhD from UC Berkeley, where you currently teach.
Yes, that's correct.
And you have numerous publications regarding Drufo and other herbicides and whatnot.
That is correct.
Great, thank you. No further questions.
Counsel, what's your position on the doctor being admitted as an expert in this case?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, the court will accept Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert pursuant to the Colorado Rules of Evidence as well as the Mock Trial Rules of Evidence 702 in the area as offered by Mr. Lee. Dr. Rogers can opine as an expert in the particular area in which he has been qualified. Mr. Lee, you may inquire some more. Go ahead.
Dr. Rogers, what is Drufo?
Well, as I stated before, Drufo is a bonding agent. It was made by Lush Fertilizer and it is contained in all their products. It is used to preserve their fertilizer.
Have you determined the chemical structure of Drufo?
Yes, I have.
Does it contain any nitrogen?
Drufo contains nitrates, which are a form of nitrogen.
Are nitrates known to be dangerous or carcinogenic?
Yes, they are.
Was Drufo known to be hazardous?
Yes, there's a study conducted in Europe where it's already known that Drufo can be carcinogenic or is carcinogenic in rats.
Did you personally run any studies on the effects of Drufo?
I did.
Did you obtain results from that study?
Well, my study entailed with 3 groups of different people. The first group being a control group with no exposure to Drufo, the second being a group with moderate exposure to Drufo, and the third being a group of farm laborers with high exposure to Drufo. And I did obtain results.
What were the results?
Well, they've shown that there's a higher rate of diseases and cancer in the farm laborer group with the higher Drufo exposure.
Were there any particular types of cancer that you found in your study?
Yes, specifically non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
What is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is a specific type of cancer that attacks the white blood cells of the body, compromising the immune system.
What causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I believe non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is purely environmental. It is not genetic in any way, shape, or form.
Did Dakota Weirs have similar exposure to Drufo as any members of your study?
I believe he did, based on the environmental conditions he was in.
Doctor, is it common for you to obtain records from other experts to learn about a client's condition?
Yes, in this case, I obtained records from Dakota Weirs' doctor.
And based on your analysis of those records, does Dakota Weirs have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I believe Dakota Weirs does have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. As we speak, it is metastasizing throughout his body, meaning it is creating other types of cancers.
And based on your study on the effects of Drufo and Mr. Weirs' environmental conditions, what is your opinion on the cause of Mr. Weirs' non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
As I stated before, I believe his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis is based on his exposure to Drufo and the conditions he was working in.
And that is the only thing that you believe caused it?
Yes, his environmental conditions.
Would baking Drufo have eliminated the risk of it causing cancer?
Baking Drufo would have eliminated all risk.
Hold on a second. Go ahead.
Objection leading, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee, any response?
Your Honor, this is not leading because I simply asked if it would have if it would have eliminated any risk that Drufo may have caused.
Court's going to overrule the objection. I understand the objection, but it's asking essentially an expert opinion of this witness who has been qualified as an expert. I'll allow the question. Mr. Lee, you're allowed to re-ask that question if you'd like. Go ahead.
Would baking Drufo have eliminated any risk that it caused cancer?
Yes, baking Drufo would eliminate all risk of it possibly being carcinogenic.
Does Lush bake Drufo?
Lush does not bake any of their fertilizer products, including Drufo.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Sorry, go ahead, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon once again, Dr. Casey Rogers.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Rogers, you wish for there to be a class action lawsuit, correct?
That is correct.
And you hope to be a part of that lawsuit.
I do. I hope to bring more light to this dangerous product and the situation.
And you stand to gain financially from being an expert witness.
Not necessarily. Drufo caught my attention specifically, and so I want to help more others who I believe also have this cancer caused from Drufo.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
So it is fair to say that you stand to gain from a class action lawsuit as a whole.
Not only do I stand to gain from this, but others who have this same problem also gain from this.
Thus making it fair to say that your testimony could possibly be financially biased.
I don't believe so. My only purpose in being here is to bring light to the situation.
Okay, moving on. You conducted a study regarding the effects of Drufo.
That is correct.
And your study is the only one to have found such results.
That I know of, yes.
And your study compares farm laborers to gardeners to people who never experienced exposure to Drufo.
That is correct.
And your study found exactly what you wanted to find.
Well, yes, it was unknown before I conducted my study. This just proves all of my research publications.
And finally, your study is not peer reviewed.
No, it is not peer reviewed.
Great, let's move on. Your research currently specializes in insect biochemistry.
My research specializes in the effects of Drufo along with other herbicides.
Dr. Rogers, your exhibit 6, your curriculum vitae states otherwise.
That is correct, but it is primarily over herbicides, selectivity and action.
Okay, so your research currently specializes in insect biochemistry as well as the metabolism and mode of action of organic toxicants.
Yes, that is like my curriculum vitae states.
Yes, and you currently teach courses on herbicides and horticultural entomology.
That is correct.
And herbicides are extremely different in comparison to fertilizers.
They can be.
So that's a yes.
Yes, to some rate.
And as a research analyst, you worked on assisting clients with compiling research and developing products rather than actively researching them.
That is correct.
So prior to conducting your study on Drufo, you had no experience in actively conducting research.
I'm sorry, can you restate the question?
So prior to conducting your study on Drufo, you had no experience in actively conducting firsthand research.
Not firsthand research, but I was working with a team.
Okay, well, let's move on. You say that Drufo's rushed arrival to the market is what led you to conduct your study?
Yes, that's correct.
And your study began around 2003.
Yes.
And you claim that the knowledge that Drufo was carcinogenic in rats is what further motivated you to undertake this study?
That is correct.
Your Honor, at this time, we would the defense would like permission to share screen share a copy of Exhibit 3.
You may do so. Mr. Lee, do you have a copy of Exhibit 3?
Yes, give me a moment to find it though.
Right. Mr. Javeri, you can screen share Exhibit 3. Go ahead.
Great, thank you, Your Honor. Apologies, 1 second. Great. Without going into its contents, can you identify this exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, and it is a study that it is the same study that you mentioned motivated you to conduct your study on Drufo.
That is correct.
And is it accurate?
Yes.
Your Honor, we offer Exhibit 3 into evidence. Its accuracy has been shown.
Position on Exhibit 3, Mr. Lee?
No, Your Honor.
Without objection, Exhibit 3 will be admitted. Go ahead, Mr. Javaria.
Permission to publish virtually, Your Honor.
Go ahead, you may.
Thank you. Moving on, Dr. Rogers, you claimed, you said that this study was what motivated you once again, correct?
That is correct.
Yet this study wasn't published for more than 3 years after Drufo was first introduced to the market in 2003.
That is correct, but that just shows how many others were also motivated by how Drufo was rushed to the market.
Yet you started your research right after Drufo was rushed to the market, is what you said earlier.
That is correct.
So are you saying that this study is what motivated you to conduct the research in the first place, or that you started conducting the research before the study came out?
I am saying that I started conducting research before the study came out, but this study just helped me, motivated me to keep further researching.
Your statement does not support that.
It can commonly be taken out.
Apologies, could you restate your answer? I couldn't hear you.
What I said was this, I'm sorry, can you restate the question?
I said, so you're contradicting your own statement.
Not necessarily.
Yet your statement said that this study and Drufo's rushed arrival to the market both combined motivated you to undertake the study in the first place. And as of right now, you're saying that this only further motivated you after you'd already begun your study.
It's the same thing. Both
No
of them
further questions,
combined.
Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Javaria. Mr. Lee, did you have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff would like to redirect.
Go ahead.
May I begin?
You can, go ahead.
Dr. Rogers, is Drufo a pesticide?
Drufo is a pesticide.
And are pesticides toxic at all?
Yes.
So they kill things?
Yeah, that's the main purpose of a pesticide.
Does studying insects help you to understand how toxins, in particular pesticides, how they work and how they harm things?
Yes, that is what I achieved from both my current position and from my PhD.
And studying plants helps you to understand how things may be absorbed through various pathways.
Yes, as I previously stated, that is correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any recross, Mr. Javaria?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
So you state that Drufo is a pesticide in your redirect?
Yes.
Yet are pesticides used to effectively retain water and allow plants to grow?
No. Sorry, I don't understand your question.
What is the purpose of a pesticide?
The purpose of a pesticide is to effectively remove or kill insects from harming plants.
But doesn't Lush Fertilizers product and Drufo in particular effectively reduce nitrate emissions from the use of fertilizers?
Yes, but the product also contains nitrates.
And how exactly are those nitrates serving as a pesticide?
The nitrates do not serve as a pesticide. The nitrates are there for the environmental cause, I believe.
So you're saying that Drufo does not serve as a pesticide?
Drufo is an herbicide, which falls into the category as also it can be used as a pesticide.
Yet in your statement, you stated that Drufo is a fertilizer.
Drufo is a fertilizer, but as I recently stated, it can be put into the category as a pesticide as well.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Rogers. The court appreciates hearing from you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Counsel for the plaintiff, do you have any additional witnesses at this time?
No, Your Honor.
All right, does the plaintiff rest?
Yes, the plaintiff rests.
All right, thank you very much. Timekeepers, go ahead and let me know when you are all set. Counsel for the defense and counsel for the plaintiff, go ahead and get yourselves ready. And we'll move into the defense case in chief here in a moment. All right, Mr. Zeppelin, are you my defense attorney first up? Mr. Zeppelin, can you hear the court?
Yes, Your Honor, sorry.
All right, that's fine. Mr. Lee, are you going to be the first plaintiff attorney up as well?
No, Your Honor. I will hand the computer over to the person who is.
Go ahead and get yourself set up.
I'm all ready, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Danzer. All right, Mr. Zeppelin, does the defense have any witnesses they wish to call?
Yes, the defense wishes to call Blake Doncourt.
All right, Ms. Doncourt, can you hear the court okay?
Yes.
All right, go ahead and raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm under the possible penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Zeppelin, you may inquire. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Can you please state your name and spell it out for the jury?
Yes. Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
Okay, Mrs. Doncourt, can you please tell the jury a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm currently the CEO of Lush Fertilizer. We provide a variety of cutting-edge fertilizers to the market. I'm also super passionate about issues involving the environment at Lush Fertilizer. I'm so proud to announce that 10% of my business profits go towards charity.
Wow, 10%, that's amazing. I'm sure a donation that generous has turned up some recognition.
You know it. I was nominated by the United Nations as the Champion of the Earth in 2020.
That's very admirable, Ms. Doncourt.
Thank you. I do what I can.
Ms. Doncourt, you said you were the current CEO of Lush Fertilizer. How long have you held this position?
Since 2000.
20 years. Ms. Doncourt, since you've been CEO at Lush Fertilizer, have any of your products, besides the one in question today, been accused of being unsafe?
No, not at all. At Lush Fertilizer, we take immense pride in both the development and testing processes of our products before they even hit the market.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that for the jury, please?
Yeah, for sure. If any of our products at any stage yield scientifically accurate and sound data that states our product is harmful to humans or the environment, that harmful variation of the product will never be released to the market. It's our safety net to ensure that our products will not hurt anybody.
Great, thank you, Ms. Doncourt. And do you know what product is in question today?
Yes, Lush Fertilizer's Drufo is being accused of being harmful.
And has this product also been through the intensive process, that safety net that you called it, before it was put out on the market?
Absolutely. Just like all of our products, Drufo has been intensely researched and tested before it went to the market. We even worked very closely with the EPA to ensure that our products did not cause any harm to the environment, while they're being correctly and safely used by our customers.
All right, Ms. Doncourt, can you clarify to the jury what the EPA is?
Yes, the EPA is the United States Environmental Protection Agency.
Or the Environmental Protection Agency. That is quite a safety net, Ms. Doncourt. Would you say that all of these precautionary measures are necessary?
100%. I would not be able to live with myself if our products cause any harm to any of my customers.
Okay, Ms. Doncourt, and are you aware of any of the accusations that have been targeted towards Lush Fertilizer's product, Drufo?
Yeah, these so-called scientists have thrown allegations around that Drufo is dangerous. However, I've yet to see any actual scientific proof.
Can you elaborate on scientifically sound proof, Ms. Doncourt?
Yeah, there has been no certified published scientific journals nor any official studies with actual professionals, just money-hungry vultures who saw an opportunity of a vulnerable company and swooped in for some scraps.
Ms. Doncourt, you seem to have some pretty strong feelings about these, those who have fashioned these allegations.
Of course I do. Lush Fertilizers are a company that I have nurtured for the past 20 years. They're my baby. These sellouts are trying to slander our company's reputation.
In what ways have they attempted to damage Lush Fertilizer's reputation, Ms. Doncourt?
Well, it really seems like they're just blindfolding themselves and throwing darts at a board. But what their orchestrated attack seems to have landed on was the claim that we dismissed the baking process of our fertilizers in bad faith.
Bad faith. What do you mean by that, Ms. Doncourt?
They are saying that we choose to mitigate losses rather than protecting our customers.
Ms. Doncourt, do you know approximately the amount of losses that Lush Fertilizers would incur if the baking process were implemented?
Yes. So in 2003, I created a chart talking about how much our company loses on baking products. And through my own calculations, the company would decrease profits 6% in the first year and then an additional 2% in the following years.
Okay, Your Honor, let the record reflect the opposing counsel has previously been provided a copy of Exhibit 8. Permission to share the screen with a copy of Exhibit 8, Your Honor.
Permission granted. Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Doncourt, without going into its contents, can you identify and confirm that this is an accurate and authentic copy?
Yes, this is the chart I made in 2003 regarding the profits of Lush. This is something businesses don't disclose at all due to competition. And this does not show the amount of hours or research that my team did testing Drufo, making sure that it is the safest that it can be.
Okay, Your Honor, we offer Exhibit 8 into evidence. Its authenticity and accuracy has been shown. We also ask permission to publish Exhibit 8 to the jury.
Ms. Danzer, position on Exhibit 8.
Objection to foundation.
Mr. Zeppelin, your response to foundation?
On what grounds?
The objection is foundation. So what's your response to foundation?
We've established enough foundation for Exhibit 8.
Danzer, go ahead and give me a little bit more argument as to why you believe there's not sufficient foundation.
Shall I wait for Mr. Zeppelin?
Go ahead and we'll just wait here for just one moment.
There was a bell.
Oh, okay. Well, I believe there's not been enough foundation because I don't believe it's been established that Miss Doncourt knows what this is or like the purpose of this document.
Your Honor, Ms. Doncourt made these calculations herself. This was the process that she went through before she made a decision on the baking process. This is the profit loss calculations and projections. So I believe that that's plenty of foundation.
All right. So over the objection of counsel, the court's going to admit Exhibit 8. The court finds that there is sufficient foundation at this time. And the court also notes that, Ms. Danzer, you can certainly cross-examine the witness on this exhibit as to the calculations and the contents contained within Exhibit 8. But for those reasons, the court will overrule the objection. Exhibit 8 is admitted over objection. Go ahead, Mr. Zeppelin.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Ms. Doncourt, moving on. It seems that even though Lush Fertilizer does incur a couple losses while including the baking process, those losses do seem mitigatable. Sorry. So why doesn't Lush Fertilizer decide to bake the products?
Well, as we know, without the baking process, Drufo does have some level of potential harm on rats, but those levels were so low that Lush didn't find that the baking process was the coherent choice.
Ms. Doncourt, what do you mean by risk was so low?
Well, plenty of things contain some level of harmful content or risk. We don't put warning labels on apples, even though they contain some traces of cyanide.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Doncourt. Moving on to Dakota Weir's what's your opinion about Dakota?
I do genuinely hope all the best for Dakota. I'm so sorry that they got taken advantage of by people like Carson, who see this case as only a way to put Lush Fertilizer down while promoting his current employer, Terra Greenery, and their new products they stole from my company.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Doncourt. And you just mentioned Carson Durst. Can you speak a little bit about your relationship with Carson?
Yeah, Carson Durst was an employee of Lush Fertilizer in the research and development team. He was fired and then, from what I hear, began to work for Terra Greenery. Ironically, also from what I hear, they have in the past cut costs on their production workers and lack of ethics there in general. Honestly, I'm severely offended by his highly paid so-called professional, aka criminal.
And what do you mean criminal accusations?
Well, Terra Greenery is suspiciously coming out with a fertilizer that is quite similar to ours, except stating it is safer and carcinogenic free. I wouldn't be surprised if Carson violated his NDA by making this product and then using poor Dakota to justify, more like cover up, his criminal activity, as Carson did sign our ironclad non-disclosure agreement, which I am planning on suing for. He has been accused before of breaching it.
Okay, let the record reflect that the opposing counsel has been provided with a copy of Exhibit 8. Your Honor, do we have permission to share a screen with a copy of Exhibit 8?
You do, and Exhibit 8 is admitted, so you can
I
freely share.
apologize, Your Honor.
You referring to Exhibit 5?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Danzer, do you have a copy of Exhibit 5?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead and you can share for purposes of showing the witness Exhibit 5 at this time. Go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Doncourt, without going into its contents, can you identify this?
Yes, this is the NDA that Carson and I signed and the one that he violated.
Your Honor, permission to publish Exhibit 5 to the jury?
Now, let me ask you first, are you moving to admit Exhibit 5?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Danzer, any position on Exhibit 5?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, Exhibit 5 will be admitted. And now, Mr. Zeppelin, you can publish Exhibit 5 to the jury.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And no further questions.
Very much. Ms. Danzer, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Let's get started, Ms. Doncourt. You mentioned that you worked with the EPA in creating your product.
Right.
And you also sell your product worldwide, yes?
Correct.
And in the EU, your product does not contain Drufo, correct?
Yes, it is banned there.
Now, you also brought up the non-disclosure agreement with Carson Durst. Are you aware that this has already been settled?
It was signed by him, so.
You mentioned that you were planning on suing him, but that was already settled, yes?
Settled in what sense? He signed it. He didn't abide by his signature, so.
It was already settled in court, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, Drufo is an incredibly effective product, yes?
Yes, I'm very proud of my fertilizer.
A product that allows Americans to grow green grass?
I'd say that's the goal of fertilizer.
The green grass of the American dream?
Dream anywhere. I'd like to have green grass at my house.
Now, not only is your product effective, it's safe, correct?
Yes, I'm an environmentalist.
And that's because safety is a top priority for your company, right?
Correct.
That includes safety for the environment?
Yes, I donate 10% of all my annual profits to environmental causes.
Charities that work to reduce nitrogen?
Charities that go towards environmental causes.
Yes or no, these charities work to reduce nitrogen?
Objection, Your Honor. What's the relevance of the charities that Ms. Doncourt donates to?
Danzer, what's the relevance of that question?
opposing counsel brought it up in their direct, so I'm touching on that point as well.
Court will overrule the objection. Go ahead, Ms. Danzer. You can re-ask that question.
These charities that you donate to, they work to reduce nitrogen, correct?
Yes.
And you also care about the safety of your clients, correct?
Yes, 100%.
Which is why you include a safety label on your product?
I do not include a safety label because there are no concerns.
Well, do you have any sort of product on your label?
Yes.
We ask that the witness be presented Exhibit 1.
I believe Exhibit 1 is already admitted, unless I'm mistaken, so you can go ahead and publish that if you like.
Yes, I believe it is. Yes. Oh. This is the same label that's on your fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
Would you follow along or direct your attention, please, to the ingredients section? The first ingredient is Drufo, correct?
Yep.
Followed by nitrogen?
Yep.
And now, not only, and you also include a warning to wear PPE, is that correct?
I'd say it's a safety recommendation, but yes.
Court's going to jump in here real quick. To the extent that Exhibit 1 may not be introduced into evidence, Mr. Zeppelin, do you have any objection to Exhibit 1 being introduced into evidence? It appears to be your client's own Lush fertilizer label. Do you have any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay, without objection, to the extent Exhibit 1 had not been introduced and admitted into evidence, Exhibit 1 will be admitted into evidence. Ms. Danzer, go ahead. Thank you.
So your recommendations for PPE are safety recommendations?
Yes, it says user safety recommendations.
And you don't recommend to wear any sort of eye protection?
No.
Even though your product causes eye irritation?
I mean, if you spray it in your eyes, but I'm aiming at the grass.
And there's no warning for indoor use on your label?
No.
Now, baking Drufo completely eliminates the risk that Drufo poses any carcinogenic risk, correct?
Yes, correct.
So there is still a risk that Drufo is carcinogenic when you don't bake it?
Well, me and my team ran a very thorough exam and we concluded that there were insignificant levels of harm. And so we went ahead and did not feel that it would cause such a thing.
But there was still a risk to the Drufo, even if it was small.
We ran our tests and they were insignificant. So I did not believe that there was a risk.
But your company doesn't bake Drufo?
No, we do not. We ran our tests. I decided after running my tests that we did not need to bake. Had I run the tests and there had been levels of toxicity, the story would have been much different. However, I did not want to rush into this. I wanted to go ahead, take my time, run my test, and then go ahead and put it on the shelves when we got the accurate results that we wanted / needed.
And you built an amortization table to review the costs of baking?
Yes, correct. And I did go ahead and publish those.
Yes. Could we please bring that up to the screen to show Ms. Davenport? I believe that's Exhibit 8. Yes, that one. Now, the total amount of revenue lost from baking over the course of 10 years would have been $2.6 million, correct?
Yes.
Now I ask you, how many lives is $2.6 million worth to you today?
Just an
No,
argumentative.
Hold on. What's your objection, Mr. Zeppelin?
That's an argumentative question.
Ms. Danzer, your response?
I can rephrase, Your Honor.
The court's going to sustain the objection. Go ahead and rephrase, Ms. Danzer.
You would have lost $2.6 million over the course of 10 years had you not baked your product.
yes,
And sitting before you, or somewhere on your screen, is Dakota Weirs, yes?
correct. I'm very sympathetic
Dakota.
for what he's going through.
Yes, Dakota, who has suffered very much due to his cancer.
100%. I am so devastated for him. And I wish I could say it's my fault, but it's just not.
And because of the economic cost, you don't bake your fertilizer.
It is not because of the economic cost. It is in fact because I ran my tests. There were insignificant levels of toxicity. And then I went ahead and put those on the shelves because there was insignificant levels. Had there been, it would have been a different story, as previously stated.
So it is your testimony today that you don't bake the Drufo because there's an insignificant risk.
There is an insignificant level of toxicity.
Okay, hold on. Mr. Zeppelin, go ahead.
That question has already been asked and answered. Ms. Doncourt has already stated her reasons for deciding not to bake Drufo. So I just believe that there's no reason for that question to be brought
All right,
back.
so the objection is asked and answered. Ms. Danzer, your response?
I'm just trying to clarify that that the reason for her not baking it is because of the risk level.
All right, so court's going to overrule the objection. I think the very specific question that Ms. Danzer just asked was not asked and answered. I think the general topic has been, but I think that specific question was not asked and answered. Ms. Danzer, you can go ahead and repeat your question. Go ahead.
So it is your testimony today that the reason you have not baked your Drufo is because it poses an insignificant risk.
So as I stated in my statement, yes, it would be costly, but the little risk was alleviated by my testing.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zeppelin, did you have any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Ms. Doncourt, thank you very much for your testimony. All right, timekeepers, let me know when we're ready to go. And I'll let counsel for the plaintiffs go ahead and get ready for me. Mr. Medved, are you my next defense attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Al-Moody, are you my attorney for the plaintiffs?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we remain on the defense case in chief. Mr. Medved, do you have any additional witnesses you wish to call?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Skylar Weirs to the stand.
Mr. Weirs, can you hear the court?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
Try that again. Make sure we don't get everybody else mute, okay?
Yes, Your Honor. Can you hear me now, Your Honor?
Can indeed. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Weirs, go ahead and raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm under the possible penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Medved, you may question your witness.
Good afternoon, Skylar. Will you please state your name and spell your last for the record?
My name is Skylar Weirs. Weirs, W-E-I-R-S.
And do you know the plaintiff?
Yes, I know the plaintiff very well.
What is your relationship with the plaintiff?
The plaintiff is my twin.
What is your reason for being here today?
My reason for being here is to defend the validity of Drufo.
And what do you do for a living?
I am an investigative journalist who writes about important issues such as the conflict between individual health and corporations. I conduct my own research and author my own articles, which are released in prominent magazines and newspapers.
Great. And what can you tell us about Drufo's link to cancer?
I can tell you that there is no link between Drufo and cancer. I have spent some time reading publications from various agricultural companies and the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
And what can you tell us about the validity of these publications?
I have confirmed these publications by also reading the research referenced in these posts. All of my research has led to the conclusion that Drufo does not cause cancer.
And then what do you think the cause of Dakota's cancer is?
I believe it's from the harmful chemicals found in fertilizer, but definitely not Drufo. To put it plainly, it is from the bad leadership from his job at Haven Landscaping. No teenager should be exposed to all those chemicals, more than just Drufo, without being mandated to wear the protective gear. Dakota and Haven's negligence is the reason for his cancer.
Yeah. And what makes you believe, in relation to Dakota's diagnosis, when did you begin your research surrounding Drufo?
I wrote an article that was published in the Rationalist magazine questioning the correlation and causation between Drufo and cancer before Dakota was diagnosed.
And so what can you tell us about your relationship with your brother?
We definitely don't have the typical twin relationship, but I love Dakota more than anything, and I wouldn't do anything to hurt him. I hate seeing him in all this pain.
I feel for you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Mr. Weirs. My name is Gavin Almoody, and I'll be cross-examining you today. Mr. Weirs, did you write you wrote for what's called the Rationalist Society, correct?
Yes, this is true.
And the Rationalist Society is focused on promoting scientific skepticism, as you stated earlier.
Yes.
This skepticism on heavily politicized topics such as commercial agriculture, right?
Yes, commercial agriculture is one of the main topics covered in the Rationalist magazine.
And vaccines?
Yes, they also question vaccines. The main point of Rationalist magazine is to promote skepticism and have people question the research they say and not to conform to typical societal norms.
And you were picked by an editor to write a series of articles, correct?
Yes.
But you didn't provide any of these articles for the trial, did you?
I do not.
You have no work to show to the jury, do you?
I have no work to show to the jury.
You would consider yourself very well versed in modern agriculture, or modern agriculture, right?
I would say I am one of the leading researchers in modern agritech today.
You would say, in fact, no one has a better perspective on modern agritech.
I'd say there are very few people who have the perspective on modern agritech that I do.
You never went to college, right?
I never went to college.
And you never told us what studies you were actually researched, did you?
No, I did not.
You never received any specialized training?
No specialized training. I'm completely freelance.
And did you review the international studies of lush fertilizer or any fertilizer?
I did. I used studies from the U.S. Department of Agriculture as well as Lush's labels to perform my studies.
Mr. Weirs, you also mentioned that you didn't go to college because it was not financially smart, correct?
Yes, I did. I didn't go to college. I believe that I could still pursue my career and my passion of writing without a formal education.
Let's talk about financial literacy. You have been sports betting for years, correct?
Yes, I have. I find that sports betting is a passion project for me as well as a way to make money.
And you're currently in a financial hole that you're struggling to climb out of.
I would say this is not my best time financially.
And so to get out, you took a part-time job as a greeter at Applebee's, correct?
Yes, I work at Applebee's.
And this is because your family is spending significant money on your twins' treatment.
Yes, I do think that Dakota's treatment for his lymphoma is taking away money that I think I deserve for the family, but I would say that my Applebee's job is not my main source. I'd say that my writing is what is keeping me afloat right now.
So if I'm correct, Mr. Weirs, you are a part-time server who wrote a series of articles that have never been seen and are testifying in court on behalf of a major corporation.
Yes, my articles have been read, but none are presented to the jury.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Medved?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weirs. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. The timekeepers to reset. And I'll let the attorneys get reset as well for perhaps our final witness.
All right,
All right,
I'm
Mr.
ready, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Javeri, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right. Do
The
you have any
defense
additional
call-
Sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you have any additional witnesses to call? Oh, you're on mute now.
My
Take it.
apologies. The defense calls Dr. Devin Williams to the stand.
All right. Dr. Williams, can you hear the court?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead and raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm under the possible penalty of perjury the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very much. Counsel, you may inquire. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
What do you do for a living?
I lead the toxicology research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer, and I'm the outgoing chair of the company's ethics committee.
What experience do you have in this field?
I completed my undergraduate and PhD education at Colorado State University in Fort Collins. Furthermore, I completed a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology. I've been employed in numerous states and have received certifications in other states, including Wyoming, New Mexico, and Utah. I've been an employee at Lush Fertilizers for the last decade, roughly, and I have led the toxicology labs for the past 7 years.
Let the record reflect that opposing counsel has previously been provided with a copy of Exhibit 9. At this time, the defense requests permission to screen share a copy of Exhibit 9, Your Honor.
Mr. Lee, have you gotten a copy of Exhibit 9?
We are getting it right now.
Mr. Javeri, go ahead and you can screen share Exhibit 9. Go ahead.
Apologies. Apologies for the delay. Without going into its contents, can you identify it?
Yes, this is my curriculum vitae.
Is it a authentic copy?
Yes.
Is it accurate?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense offers Exhibit number 9 into evidence after having verified its authenticity and accuracy.
Mr. Lee, your position on Exhibit 9?
Objection, hearsay.
Barry, what's your response to the hearsay objection?
Your Honor, this is not hearsay. This is purely Dr. Devin Williams' curriculum vitae.
Right, but what's your, is it being offered for the truth of the matter asserted?
No, Your Honor. It is an exact representation of the jobs and publications that Dr. Devin Williams has, as well as his education.
Any additional response?
Your Honor, I do not believe that the defense has offered sufficient foundation for this to be exempted from hearsay.
Well, understanding that the objection is somewhat changed to foundationary now, the court's going to go ahead and overrule the hearsay objection. I do found that that there's sufficient foundation laid related to that, and that the doctor can certainly testify as to her qualifications that are set forth in the curriculum vitae. So over objection, the court will admit Exhibit 9. Mr. Javeri, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Permission to publish virtually?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Moving on, Your Honor, at this point, based on Dr. Devin Williams' extensive experience in education, as well as Exhibit 9 under Colorado Rule 702, the prosecution would like to offer up Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in the field of pharmacotoxicology.
Your position?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, the doctor will be qualified as an expert pursuant to the Colorado Rules of Evidence 702 as an expert in the area of pharmacology and toxicology. And Dr. Williams can go ahead and opine in those areas as she sees fit. Go ahead, Mr. Zaveria.
Thank you, Your Honor. Moving on, what is your connection to this case, Doctor?
I was originally hired to fill in as a technician on the Drufo development team. Later, I was promoted to lead the labs to oversee work on the environmental impacts of our products.
Can you please give a description of Drufo and its function?
Yes, effectively, Drufo binds to the ingredients in the fertilizer, and that leads to it binding whatever the product is sprayed on, be it grass or any other plants. This means that fertilizer is utilized and less washes off into the soil, which then interrupts the process of eutrophication from the very start itself. I can give you a more technical explanation, but that would have to include words such as coagulated hydroxylapatite and phosphate precipitate.
What are your thoughts on reports and studies that argue that non-Hodgkin lymphoma is a prominent side effect of continued exposure to Drufo?
There is a lack of valid data that non-Hodgkin lymphoma is a prominent side effect of continued exposure to Drufo. At Lush, we analyzed data to understand whether users of fertilizers containing Drufo experienced an elevated risk of developing non-Hodgkin lymphoma in contrast to users of other fertilizers. And in that respect, I am more than content to say that we have found no such evidence.
So what is your opinion on the study conducted by Dr. Casey Rogers on the correlation between exposure to Drufo and non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
I believe that the study by Dr. Rogers cannot be given much weight due to the fact that his study purportedly looked at the exposure to Drufo for farm laborers versus casual gardeners versus people who do not participate in any action relating to those fields. The lifestyles of these three groups are entirely different, meaning there could be a plethora of confounding variables that could have affected his results. Simply put, Dr. Rogers attempted to juxtapose apples and oranges. There's just so much more I could say.
How would you elaborate?
Well, furthermore, his study has not been peer-reviewed, and the data he found has not been found in any similar studies, which indicates that his results are a fluke and are likely biased considering his entire career has been dedicated to finding harms from continued exposure to Drufo. A professor of mine at CSU once said, when someone finds exactly what they set out to find, always question their results.
So what effects did Drufo display that led to its ban in the EU?
Drufo was banned in the EU due to the fact that under the EU's nitrate directive, no new fertilizers may be utilized that contribute more than incidental nitrate accumulation in lab tests. What this means is that although Drufo significantly reduces the number of nitrates that accumulate, it still has nitrogen in it. And so if you were to pour some into a petri dish and just the right bacteria, it would provide you with just as many nitrates as any other fertilizer.
So what exactly are you saying?
Effectively, the EU bureaucracy banned Drufo because the results provided in unrealistic lab conditions showed that Drufo violates the nitrate directive. In fact, this is why Drufo isn't a part of the French label and is an ingredient in the products distributed by Lush in the EU.
Could you please expand on this?
Simply put, it is easier to make fertilizer without Drufo and to sell that in Europe, even though it isn't the most environmentally friendly action to take. In addition, Lush was a relatively new company, and we simply couldn't fight the decision of the EU with our limited resources at the time.
Do you have any financial incentive for testifying in this case today?
In the interest of full disclosure, yes. As an employee of Lush Fertilizer, I do stand to benefit from my testimony in this case, if Lush were to be acquitted. However, no part of my testimony today has been biased in any way whatsoever. I would also like to express my sincerest sympathies to Dakota Weirs and his family, as non-Hodgkin lymphoma is an extremely difficult illness to battle. And I would like to once again state that Drufo does not elevate the risk of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and that Lush Fertilizer was not negligent in the development of its product in any stage whatsoever. The development of Drufo is revolutionary for our environment, and I hope that it will continue to serve that noble purpose.
Thank you, Dr. Devin Williams. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. My name is Jason Lee, and I will be asking you a few questions today.
Good afternoon.
You are currently employed as a research toxicologist for Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
And you have led the toxicology lab at Lush for 7 years now, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So you understand how the human body reacts to toxins,
Yes, that is correct.
and you know how to test for toxicity in chemicals?
Yes, that is correct.
You see yourself as having a responsibility to look past current project objectives and ask the big questions, right?
Yes.
And you are also the outgoing chair of the ethics committee for Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Correct.
So you understand the value of integrity.
Correct.
So you would never lie about test results.
Correct.
You were first employed at Lush as a technician, correct?
Correct.
Objection asked and answered, Your Honor.
I'm going to overrule that objection. Go ahead, Mr. Lee, re-ask that question.
You were first employed at Lush as a technician, correct?
Yes.
And only later were you in charge of the labs?
Yes, I was promoted.
When you joined Lush, half of the research and development team had left the company, right?
Yes.
And that rapid turnover had, in your words, caused some projects to be rushed to completion?
Well, we had to speed up the process for some of our testing, but we still did thorough testing and we still came back.
Thank you.
with
Just yes or no
results.
answer is okay. So
Objection,
there
Your
was
Honor,
Okay, hold on, Mr. Lee. Mr. Javeria, go ahead.
Objection, Your Honor. My witness wasn't allowed to fully answer the question.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You can explore that on redirect if you wish. Mr. Lee, go ahead and start with a new fresh question.
So there was a higher chance for mistakes to happen since you were rushing?
I would disagree with this statement. We still conducted very thorough testing that came back with the results that there were insignificant risks in Drufo.
And your toxicology tests on Drufo were performed in-house?
Yes.
And those same tests did not reveal a cancer risk for Drufo?
No, there was no cancer risk.
Which is what you wanted to find.
Yes. Well, this is how the scientific process works. I developed a hypothesis and it came back with the same results that I had developed in my hypothesis. This is the way that science occurs.
Does Drufo contain nitrates?
Yes.
And Drufo is banned in the EU, is that correct?
Yes, as I said earlier, that is correct.
And you believe this is because of nitrate accumulation?
This is because of the nitrate directive. This is the exact reason that the EU has banned Drufo.
And if a US court found that Drufo causes cancer, there would never be a chance to sell it in the EU?
Yes, and that would be a shame as it's extremely environmentally friendly.
But if you win this suit, you plan to appeal the EU's decision to ban Drufo?
Yes.
So then you could sell Drufo in the EU?
Yes.
I would imagine that would result in more money for Lush, right?
Yes, as I said earlier, there is financial incentive to testify in this case. However, I testified based on scientific facts. I did not testify on subjective statements.
So you would do anything to keep this lawsuit from going badly against Lush?
Anything ethical?
But you do have a definite financial bias?
Yes, as I testified earlier, I did.
And you maintain that Drufo does not cause cancer?
Yes.
Are you aware of a peer-reviewed study in the EU that showed increased cancer risk with exposure to Drufo?
Yes.
So even though you were aware of the fact that Drufo causes cancer, you still decided to put it on the market?
This study was done in, as I said before, unrealistic lab conditions where they test for the level of nitrate in.
That's not what I asked. I asked, even though you were aware of the fact that it causes cancer, you still put it on the market?
Our lab testing results showed that it does not have an increased risk of cancer. The test results done in their labs.
Objection, witness is unresponsive.
Overruled. Go ahead and ask a new question, Mr. Lee.
So you knowingly put a dangerous product into consumers' hands?
As I said before, our test results showed that it was not dangerous. The risk was very insignificant.
But if Drufo was known to be a carcinogen, you would agree that there should be a warning on the packaging.
In one lab test, it was shown to be carcinogenic. Our lab results, as I said earlier, showed insignificant risk.
As an academic, you understand the importance of being peer-reviewed. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
You are critical of Dr. Rogers' study because it is not peer-reviewed, right?
Yes.
Has your study on the risks of Drufo even been published?
Our study has not been published as it showed insignificant risk, and so we put our product on the market. This was a study to show the risk of our product to make sure we didn't export a dangerous product. This was not a study for scientific research.
Thank you. You answered my question. So your study could not have been peer-reviewed at all?
Our study was done by multiple scientists in our labs.
But it has not been reviewed by anybody outside of Lush, an independent observer?
You could say.
So we don't know the validity of your testing methods?
Could you say the question again?
So we don't know the validity of your testing methods?
Well, as chair of the ethics committee, I'm very adamant about making sure that our testing is ethical and that we are not putting products out that would cause risks and lawsuits that would be detrimental to our company.
But we also don't know the validity of your results.
Yes.
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled, not argumentative. And the witness has answered the question. Go ahead, Mr. Lee.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for your testimony. The court appreciates it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and get our timekeepers set and get our witnesses who may be doing closing arguments here. Mr. Lee, are you doing closing arguments for plaintiff?
Yes, I am. May I grab that off of my desk?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Mr. Javeri, are you doing closing arguments?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lee, tell me when you're ready.
Plaintiff is ready, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Timekeepers, or give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go. All right. Mr. Lee, as the plaintiff and the individuals bringing this lawsuit, do you wish to present closing argument?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I would like to reserve any remaining time for a rebuttal.
So granted.
May it please the court, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Jason Lee, and along with my co-counsel, Gavin L. Moody and Erica Danzer, we represent Dakota Weirs. Lush was rushed in more ways than one. You have just been shown all of the evidence for the case of Mr. Weirs' non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You have been told that the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, manufactured a chemical known as Drufo. You have been told that Lush rushed their studies on Drufo. You've been told that shortly before Dr. Williams joined Lush, half of their research and development team had left. Which begs the question, why did they leave? Was it because they didn't have faith in their product or the integrity of their employer? Furthermore, Lush rushed Drufo to the market. In doing so, they ignored their own negative study results that showed Drufo causes cancer just so that they could make some profits quickly. And if Lush wins this lawsuit, they plan to sell Drufo in the EU, where they can give even more people cancer. Lush is trying to make themselves out to be the good guy, but that really isn't the case. They are only out to make a quick buck. You've been told that Lush is a humanitarian company, that they have won many awards for helping to reduce environmental pollution. You should remember, though, awards don't mean they aren't profit-driven. They are simply a commercial company out to make money. In fact, they may be trying to distract your attention from their own dangerous products. You have been told that Drufo is a pesticide. By their very definition, pesticides kill living organisms. Lush Fertilizer does not have a medical doctor who is willing to testify as to the safety of Drufo. Yes, their hired gun chemist says it is safe, but I ask you, does a chemist know what cancer looks like? Skylar Weirs, a key witness for the defense, is purported to be an expert, yet they have no training in chemistry, toxicology, or medicine, nor do they have any credentials. They say that they spent less than a year researching for their series of articles on Drufo, which have yet to be released, and yet they claim to know more than most other experts, many of whom have PhDs who have spent decades researching dangerous chemicals. Furthermore, they provide no citations for their research and don't credit any of their sources. How are we to know that their sources are reputable? Ms. Doncourt testified today that green grass is the grass of the American dream. But, I ask you, is the American dream cancer? Ms. Doncourt also stated that the safety recommendations were simply recommendations. They were not legally binding in any way, so it wouldn't matter if Dakota Weirs wore PPE or not. We have shown that Lush failed to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm to persons reasonably expected to use the product in a manner which the defendant might have reasonably expected. We have shown that Dakota Weirs was one of those people. We have shown that Mr. Weirs' negligence, if any, was less than that of the defendant, and that Mr. Weirs' damages were caused by Lush's negligence. We have shown that 1. Lush used Drufo and fertilizer. We've shown that 2. They did not exercise adequate care in reducing harm by failing to bake Drufo. We've shown that 3. Dakota Weirs was a person who might have reasonably been expected to use Drufo. He was working for a landscaping company. And 4. Dakota Weirs' cancer was caused by Lush's negligence. They knew the risk of cancer and they failed to bake the product. Now, members of the jury, in today's case, we as the plaintiff have the burden of proof of proving negligence by a preponderance of evidence. This means that we have to show that it was more likely than not, or 51%. We have done that through the three witnesses that we have called. We have shown that Lush Fertilizer knew that Drufo would be harmful to the user. We have shown that Lush failed to prevent the risk of Drufo causing cancer. We have shown that Dakota Weirs suffered because of Lush Fertilizer's negligence. Members of the jury, I urge you to give a verdict in favor of Dakota Weirs, whose life and livelihood has been decimated by a dangerous product produced by Lush Fertilizer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I think you have about 40 seconds left on rebuttal if you wish. All right, Mr. Javeria.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you wish to present a closing statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Your Honor, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Lush Fertilizer has been falsely accused of practicing negligence in the development and distribution of their acclaimed and revolutionary fertilizers containing Drufo. Once again, I remind you, accusations don't equal truth. Don't reward misinformation. The evidence has shown that while Dakota Weirs' circumstances are unfortunate, Lush Fertilizer's actions played no role in their occurrence. In this trial today, the prosecution had to prove to you, the jury, by preponderance of evidence, that Dakota Weirs' non-Hodgkin lymphoma was a consequence of continued exposure to Drufo. This meant that the prosecution had to prove that there was more than a 50% chance that continued exposure to Drufo was the cause of Dakota Weirs' circumstances. As witnesses testified and evidence was submitted, it became clear that Lush Fertilizer's practices were more than enough and that they are not to blame for Dakota Weirs' circumstances. Dakota Weirs testified that they failed to undertake safety precautions that were clearly labeled on every Lush Fertilizer's product containing Drufo. One could argue that Dakota Weirs was negligent in his utilization of Lush Fertilizer's products, and that resulted in him being diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. In addition to that, Mr. Weirs told us that he worked with numerous fertilizers, which warned him not to use them indoors, yet he failed to heed that evidence. There's a clear pattern that was established. Mr. Weirs was negligent in his actions, and now that he is bearing the brunt of his mistakes, he's looking to accuse Lush Fertilizers. In addition to that, Dr. Casey Rogers was called to testify, and Dr. Rogers based a lot of his testimony on a study, which he was not qualified to undertake. Not only was he not qualified, but his study had numerous inconsistencies, had effectively compared apples to oranges to bananas, and it lacked a peer review of any sorts. Furthermore, Dr. Rogers had numerous inconsistencies in their testimony and failed to define key terms accurately. Moving on to the defense's witnesses. First, Blake Doncourt discussed the steps taken by Lush and the data behind those, as well as the fact that Lush did not neglect any parts of the process. Not only was Ms. Doncourt honest, but she was open and willing to cooperate. Are those really the behaviors of a guilty party? One of those key things focused on was Lush Fertilizer's choice not to break the product, which would have reduced toxicants. Yet, I must remind you, the jury, that it is believed that the presence of nitrogen is what causes Drufo. Yet nitrogen is not a toxicant. So would baking the product have truly made a difference? I think not. Moving on to the testimony of Skylar Weirs, who's the plaintiff's very own twin. Skylar informed us about studies regarding the effects of Drufo and his passion for writing. Finally, Dr. Devin Williams discussed Dr. Casey Rogers' study and its validity in this scenario. One of the key arguments the plaintiff presented was that Lush didn't bake their product to remove toxicants. And as previously stated, nitrogen is what is believed to cause that. And so effectively, baking Drufo would have only taken up time and resources and would have stopped a potentially environmentally beneficial product from hitting the market. In addition, the prosecution argued that Drufo was a pesticide, even after numerous experts stated it was a fertilizer. These inconsistencies, although minor, amount to a larger question. Are the prosecution aware of all the necessary facts in this case? This is a civil case, and so the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, must prove their case by preponderance of the evidence. Rather than Drufo, Dakota Weirs' non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by other circumstances. And because of these unfortunate circumstances and poor research by certain bad actors, Lush Fertilizer has been falsely accused. We've shown that Lush undertook all necessary measures and that Dakota Weirs was a negligent party. For these reasons, we ask you to return a verdict in favor of Lush Fertilizers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Javaria. Mr. Lee, I think you have about 40 seconds. Is there any additional rebuttal that you wish to present?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
If misinformation is coming from anyone, it's Lush. They knew the risks of Drufo and they rushed their product to market. Their misinformation is what led to Dakota Weirs' cancer. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Lee. At this time, that closes the matter, closes the case, and the scorekeepers will be tallying up everything at this time. How about everybody come back on your screens for me for a second?
All righty.
All right, thank you all very much. You guys did a great job. You should all be very proud of yourself and give yourself a big thumbs up and a big hug and a big, yeah, there you go. Give yourselves some clapping. While the scoring panelists, I'll just say a couple comments real quick and then I'll let the scoring panelists finish up. As I said at the beginning, my name is Magistrate Jacob Edson. I'm a magistrate here in the 18th Judicial District. That's Arapahoe County. So right where all of you guys go to school. What I didn't tell you is I've been doing mock trial for a long time, for about, at least 10 years, primarily because my wife is a high school teacher as well. And she has a team, not in Arapahoe County, but in a different jurisdiction that she's running a team right now. So I have been part of every Saturdays as well when she's going through her stuff. I haven't listened in at all. I didn't know this case at all. And I completely wall myself off from that. But my wife works her team as well. And I'll tell you, I know firsthand how much work it is and how much work all of you have put into this. And I know that in a case like this, there's big words out there that you all are talking about. And it's not an easy case. So I think you all have done a fabulous job. You should be very proud of yourself. And as the first round, it's always the hardest. So you got that out of the way and you guys are going to do a great job. So I thank you all very much. And I'll turn it over to any of the scoring panelists if there's any comments that they wish to address. Thank you all.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Henderson. I'm the immediate past president of the Arapahoe County Bar Association. I'm also an attorney who's practiced law at a firm called Berg Simpson. And we actually do, on the plaintiff side, exactly this kind of work. So this was very fascinating to me personally, even though I don't do that kind of work. My work is usually I sue insurance companies when they don't pay claims. So a couple of kind of overarching comments. One is in the Zoom process, it's really tempting to read your questions, read your opening statements, read your closing arguments. And I urge all of you to try to divorce yourself from the reading. It may sound easy to do, and I know you have one more round today before you move in tomorrow. So probably not enough time to do this, but I urge you, when you get done today, try it without the notes. You'll just put your notes aside and give it a try. What you'll find is you may not remember everything, but your presentation will be a little smoother because you won't be so wedded to the notes. I know one of the teams, it looked like your notes were probably on your screen, so you weren't having to look down. The other team, you were looking down a little bit, but try it without the notes. Something else that I always have to do for myself when I'm in trial: take a big, deep breath before you start. There's a real tendency, particularly when you're on a timer, to rush, hurry, hurry, hurry. There's a lot of stuff I got to fit into a really short amount of time, and I'm going to do my darndest to really get it out. I, as a juror, can't follow along that fast. You got to keep things pretty simple and just kind of slow it down. Another couple of things, real quick. I urge you, if you think there's something to object to, like a document's being put up on the screen before it's been admitted into evidence, don't hesitate to object. I mean, sometimes it's uncomfortable when you're in a courtroom and you're the one that needs to stand up and object, but do it. Stand up and object. One other thing, there was a tendency of some of the lawyers to comment on the responses that you would hear. Yeah, you're right. That that makes you a really good company, that you're looking out for you're being environmentally conscious. In a real courtroom, that would not be permitted. As a lawyer, you're not permitted to comment on the evidence when it's coming in. You can nod, you can do some of these, but you're not allowed to comment. Some really nice jobs. I'm going to call out a couple of you directly. Let's see. In your opening statement, Mr. Javeria, try to raise your voice, lower your voice, or give I call it modulate what your presentation is. You were going very quickly. It was very well done, but you would do better be able to, I think, keep the jury in your palm listening to you if you speed up, slow down, raise your voice, lower your voice, and that goes for all of you as well. When you are doing the direct examination in particular, and this is a feature of Zoom, and I've done a lot of depositions by Zoom, it's best to look into the camera, because then it looks like you're really looking at your witness. Same thing with regard to the witnesses. If I'm looking down here in the lower left-hand part of the screen and I'm asking you a question, it doesn't look like I'm looking at you. So it's important that you try to establish that eye contact. Mr. Medved, great job on getting the admission of negligence from Dakota Weir. During the closing argument, you should have hit on that. You were reading off your prepared notes and you didn't know that your teammate was going to be able to extract that admission. So you need to be able to roll with the punches when you're in a real courtroom. So it wasn't only that the evidence showed it, you heard Mr. Weirs himself. He admitted that he was negligent for not putting on the equipment. So don't be afraid to try to pull in little nuggets that you hear throughout the course. Let's see. Ms. Danzer, when you got the evidence in about keeping it in the walls, that's a great admission. So you need to dwell on that a little bit. Well, what do you mean? what did you mean when you said keep it in the walls? I mean, it just to really kind of emphasize that point. I mean, I know what it means, but just to make sure that you're kind of taking a big highlighter basically and highlighting that point. What did that mean? Let's see. Ms. Greer, in your job as a witness, you did a really good job with some of your comebacks. When someone was trying to corner you on something, you did a really good job of responding. Mr. Zeppelin, on your cross of Mr. Durst or Ms. Durst, really good, tight cross-examination questions. It was a good objection on where. Yeah, sorry, my notes are too cryptic here. Mr. Lee, very nice job on the direct exam, and all of you, your examinations were very good. Ms. Garcia, you sounded like a real PhD there when you were talking as Dr. Rogers, and a great response to the financial bias question on cross. Let's see. Oh, on the redirect, when Mr. Lee was doing his redirect of Dr. Rogers, he went beyond the scope of the original of the cross, which if you can get away with it, fine. But that's up to you, crosser, to object to that. You can't go beyond that scope. Let's see. Mr. Zeppelin, a good objection on lives being worth $2.6 million. That was I was waiting for that objection, and it was good job by you. Let's see, the Ms. Manfrey as Blake, be careful of the criminal accusations. That's pretty darn serious. I would not, if you were my witness, I would never counsel you to say that. You can walk right up to that line, but that's kind of crossing an imaginary line to actually accuse someone else of being engaging in criminal conduct. On the cross, let's see, Ms. Danzer, a great response to the objection about the relevance of the charities. You articulated what I was sitting here saying. I can't sit still. So like, no, she opened the door. They brought that up, and it's exactly what you said. So a good job on that. Let's see, I could go on. I'll let others talk, but really excellent job by everybody. I commend all of you. Very well done.
And with your permission, Your Honor, I'd like to add a couple of comments. I, unlike Tom, am not a litigator. I never want to be a litigator. I don't ever intend to be a litigator. And 43 years later, I've been to court a number of times as an expert witness. And rather than getting the specifics as Tom did, and I had some of the same specifics, I just wanted to have a very short general that reiterates what Tom said at the beginning. And when I'm sitting in the witness chair, when I'm talking with people in CLEs or whatever, it is important to take that breath. Take a breath, speak slowly and distinctly. A lot of you were rushing through your words, and that makes it more difficult to understand. But take that breath. It's like I tell my grandkids when they're getting up to the golf tee, take a breath before you swing. Take a breath before you swing in court as well. I think it's very important. I think it's very good advice from Tom, and it's something I remember when I'm sitting on the stand myself. Very good job. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did listening.
All right, thank you all very much. I think that is it, if I'm not mistaken. and everything has been brought in. So again, great job, everybody. You guys should be very, very proud of yourselves.
Thank you, guys. I'm going to go ahead and stop live streaming now. And you guys are all good to hold off until your next round, and good luck for the rest of your tournament.